Top 10 Most Corrupt African Presidents in 2025. Across Africa, a troubling pattern emerges as some leaders prioritize personal gain over national development, plunging their countries into turmoil. Many presidents, once heralded for their potential, have succumbed to corruption, siphoning public funds and undermining democratic institutions. Their actions have not only eroded public trust, but have also stunted economic growth, exacerbated poverty, and fueled social unrest. As citizens grapple with the consequences of their leaders' greed, the quest for accountability and reform intensifies. This video delves into the stories of Africa's most corrupt presidents and the profound impact of their misrule on their nations. But first, if you are new here, welcome. Please subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our videos. 10. Paul Biya, President of Cameroon. Paul Biya has been the President of Cameroon since 1982, making him one of the longest-serving leaders in Africa. His government is often criticized for widespread corruption, human rights abuses, and a lack of political freedom. Biya's administration has been accused of embezzling state funds and engaging in patronage, with reports suggesting that a significant portion of Cameroon's budget is misappropriated. Under his rule, opposition voices have been suppressed, with political dissent often met with intimidation or violence. Despite occasional promises of reform, Biya has maintained a tight grip on power, fostering a system that prioritizes loyalty over accountability. As economic challenges persist and regional conflicts escalate, many Cameroonians continue to call for greater transparency and democratic governance. 9. Bola Ahmed Tinubu, President of Nigeria. Bola Ahmed Tinubu is a Nigerian politician and member of the All Progressives Congress, APC, serving as the President of Nigeria since May 2023. A former governor of Lagos State from 1999 to 2007, he is often credited with significant economic reforms and infrastructure development in the state. However, his political career has been marred by allegations of corruption and financial impropriety. Critics accuse Tinubu of using his political influence to amass wealth and engage in corrupt practices, with scrutiny surrounding his educational credentials and the source of his wealth. His government faces challenges, including security issues, economic instability, and public discontent over rising living costs. As he navigates these obstacles, calls for transparency and accountability in governance continue to grow among the Nigerian populace. 8. Obiang Nguema Mbasogo, President of Equatorial Guinea. Teodoro Obiang Nguema Mbasogo has been the President of Equatorial Guinea since 1979, making him the longest-serving president in Africa and one of the longest in the world. His government is characterized by authoritarian rule, with widespread allegations of human rights abuses, censorship, and suppression of political dissent. Obiang's administration has been marred by significant corruption, with reports suggesting that a large portion of the nation's oil wealth has been embezzled by government officials and misappropriated for personal gain. The country, despite its oil riches, remains plagued by poverty and poor social services. International watchdogs have consistently criticized Obiang's regime for lack of transparency and accountability, as well as its failure to address the needs of the populace, who continue to suffer under his rule. 7. Isaias Afwerki, President of Eritrea. Isaias Afwerki has been the President of Eritrea since its independence from Ethiopia in 1993, making him one of Africa's longest-serving leaders. His government is characterized by a repressive regime that curtails political freedoms, with no legal opposition or independent media allowed to operate. Afwerki's administration has faced widespread criticism for human rights abuses, including forced conscription and indefinite military service. Corruption is prevalent, with allegations that state resources are mismanaged and siphoned off by officials close to the president, while the economy remains largely stagnant. Despite Eritrea's strategic location and potential resources, many Eritreans face dire living conditions, and the government is often accused of prioritizing control over development. Calls for reform and accountability continue to grow amidst the ongoing struggles of the Eritrean people. 6. Yoweri Museveni, President of Uganda. Yoweri Museveni has been the president of Uganda since 1986, making him one of Africa's longest-serving leaders. His government initially gained support for ending civil war and promoting economic growth. However, over the years, Museveni has faced increasing criticism for authoritarian practices, including the suppression of political opposition and media freedom. Corruption is rampant in his administration, with numerous reports of embezzlement and misappropriation of public funds by government officials. Despite efforts to address corruption, many Ugandans feel that accountability measures are insufficient, and public trust in the government continues to erode. Museveni's regime has also been accused of human rights abuses, particularly against dissenters. As he navigates a changing political landscape, demands for transparency and democratic governance persist among the Ugandan populace. 5. Denis Sassou Nguesso, President of the Republic of Congo. Denis Sassou Nguesso has been the President of the Republic of the Congo since 1997, having previously ruled from 1979 to 1992. His government is marked by authoritarianism, with limited political freedoms and a lack of genuine opposition. Sassou has been accused of manipulating electoral processes to maintain power, including controversial constitutional amendments. Corruption is pervasive within his administration, with allegations of embezzlement and mismanagement of the country's oil wealth. Reports indicate that significant state resources have been misappropriated by officials close to Sassou, contributing to widespread poverty despite the nation's natural riches. The government often faces criticism for neglecting public services and infrastructure. As economic challenges grow, calls for accountability and reform continue to rise among the Congolese people. 4. Emmerson Mnangagwa, President of Zimbabwe. Emmerson Mnangagwa has been the president of Zimbabwe since November 2017, following the ousting of longtime leader Robert Mugabe. Initially seen as a potential reformer, Mnangagwa's government has faced significant criticism for its authoritarian practices and human rights abuses, including crackdowns on dissent and media suppression. Corruption is a major issue within his administration, with numerous allegations of graft and mismanagement of public funds. The economy remains in dire straits, suffering from hyperinflation and high unemployment, while state resources are often misappropriated by political elites. Despite promises to tackle corruption, many Zimbabweans feel that accountability measures are inadequate. As economic hardships escalate, calls for transparency and democratic governance intensify, with widespread disillusionment toward Mnangagwa's leadership. 3. Salva Kiir, President of South Sudan. Salva Kiir has been the president of South Sudan since its independence in 2011, following a long civil conflict. His government has faced severe criticism for its handling of ongoing violence and ethnic tensions, which have resulted in widespread suffering and displacement. Corruption is rampant in Kiir's administration, with numerous allegations of embezzlement, mismanagement of oil revenues, and abuse of public funds by government officials. Despite international pressure to combat corruption, efforts have been largely ineffective, leading to a lack of trust among the populace. The economy is in shambles, exacerbated by conflict and corruption, leaving many South Sudanese in dire poverty. 2. Ismail Omar Guelleh, President of Djibouti. Ismail Omar Guelleh has been the president of Djibouti since 1999. His long tenure has been marked by allegations of corruption, authoritarianism, and human rights abuses. Critics claim that he has consolidated power by stifling opposition, controlling the media, and manipulating elections to maintain his position. Reports indicate widespread corruption within his administration, particularly in state contracts and resource management. Despite Djibouti's strategic geopolitical importance, Guelleh's governance has led to concerns about transparency and accountability, prompting calls for reform and greater democratic practices in the country. 1. William Ruto, President of Kenya. William Ruto became the President of Kenya in September 2022 after a contentious election. His government has faced scrutiny regarding corruption, as Ruto himself has been implicated in various scandals over the years, including land grabbing and misuse of public funds. Despite his promises to fight corruption, Critics argue that his administration has not effectively addressed the pervasive graft that plagues Kenyan politics. High-profile cases remain unresolved, and many citizens feel disillusioned by the lack of accountability among public officials. Ruto's government has also been criticized for its handling of economic challenges, including rising inflation and unemployment. As Kenyans seek transparency and good governance, calls for systemic reforms to combat corruption continue to grow in the political landscape.